Welcome to a series that we call the End of Times, where we go through the book of Revelation verse by verse to try our best to see what it is we can expect to happen in the end times, or the times Jesus referred to as the end of the age. And where we are at this point is John had been taken up into the throne room of God, where we have seen Jesus worthy to open a scroll with 7 seals that God has in his hands. It is the prophetic event of his second coming. And we see that events are taking place as he breaks these seals. And now we're at this point, at the 7th seal. And I want to just take this episode and kind of talk about how do we know that we are in the middle of all this. So let's just kind of go through this real quick. Seal 1, rulers are appointed. Seal 2, war breaks out. Seal 3, poverty becomes rampant on the earth. Seal 4, a fourth of the earth dies from sword, hunger, and disease. Seal 5, Christians are killed. And Seal 6, we see this prophecy of a cosmic disturbance by God, but then we're told it's paused. It's just kind of stopped for a moment in time, where 144,000 Israelites can be marked, and then we see this multitude of Christians who are being killed. Now, once we get to Seal 7, up until that point, the wrath of God hasn't even began. And it's very important that we see it that way, because everything until now, up until Seals 1 through 6, has been caused by man. Everything leading up to the 7th seal, to many people on the earth, would just look normal to some degree. So how would we know that we are in the middle of it? I want to start by saying that the first coming of Jesus Christ is the most prophesied event in the Bible. I count, and I know there's more than this, at least 107 Old Testament prophecies of the first coming of Jesus Christ. Prophecies of him being the Son of God, the incarnation of Jesus, the virgin birth, the born in Bethlehem, the lineage of Judah, the lineage of David, the flight to Egypt, the death of babies by Herod, the baptism, miracles, cleansing of the temple, the triumphal entry into Jerusalem, his arrest, scourging, casting lots of his clothes, his bones not being broken, he's pierced in the side, his death, burial, resurrection, and ascension are prophesied at least 107 times in the Old Testament. And Israel stared right in the face of God. They could literally reach out and touch him. And they totally missed it. It was the most prophesied event in all of Scripture, and they completely missed it. Biblical scholars stared right at God, and they didn't even catch it. They totally missed the most told about of all prophetic events. People today are looking for this some kind of giant godly event that they can then start some sort of a clock and know that they are in this end times. Yet here we are walking into the end times, about to witness this generation about to witness the second coming of Jesus Christ, and we are missing it because people are waiting for this grand event that'll just somehow start this clock, and then they could just look at a calendar and make this assumption of what's about to happen. Most people hoping for the rapture of the church, which is a pre-tribulation rapture, is not at all biblical. There's the promise of the rapture before God's wrath, but once again, the first 6 seals have nothing to do with God's wrath. It's man's doing. God and the horsemen are just helping it along, but it's man's evil heart that's doing it. There's no grand promise of an obvious God event that we will clearly see. There isn't any. There's no biblical promise of a grand event that'll start this 7-year clock. But if we stop and look at the events around us, like so few did in Jesus' first coming, we can see it, and it is happening. The 7th seal begins the prelude of the trumpets, and we will know then it is on us. But until then, we're walking into, and all of it is happening but yet most of us are completely blind to it because we're waiting for some sort of grand event that just simply isn't going to happen. Most people waiting for the rapture that is not promised at all until right around the seventh seal. And by then, we're almost all the way through the tribulation, and we would have completely missed all of it, thinking that we're voting, or that we're just seeing a war take place, or that it's too bad all those people are starving and dying. Now, I personally know that the first seal is broken, and we've talked about that in the past, but there is no doubt in my mind, as we get further into Revelation and we look at the beasts from the sea and the beasts from the land, there's no doubt in my mind that those leaders are already leading and appointed. And you'll see this as we continue through Revelation as well. So I just want to take this time and just make you pause for a second, look around. Because in Jesus' day, he walked among them. He did everything that their beloved prophets told them he would do. And as they did it, they accused him of blasphemy. They had no idea that they were staring right in the face of God. Him there. They could reach out and touch him. And they were watching miracles take place. And they were watching everything that was prophesied about him play out exactly like the prophets said it would. But they were waiting for some sort of grand event. They were waiting for some sort of God from the sky to come down and save them from the Romans. It just never happened. And I believe that we're doing the exact same thing. We're standing here waiting for some sort of grand event to be saved from all these horrific events on the earth. But in the meantime, we're just causing these horrific events, and we're just playing it out just like the prophets have told us we would. It's really kind of a foolish thing. So as we get into the seventh seal, I want to take this moment to make this video because up until this point, the wrath of God, it hadn't even began yet. We've gotten through seal 1 through 6, and all of that has been caused by man. And we're watching it play out before us. You know, we see these leaders. We're just waiting for these wars to begin. And then from then, we're going to stare at it. But people will still just be sitting there waiting for the rapture of the church to occur, which again isn't going to happen until after the Christians have warred against the beast, and after everything has taken place, seals 1 through 6, and then, and only then, will the rapture of the church occur. So don't sit there and wait for the rapture thinking that this isn't going to play out. It's going to play out. And in many cases, it's playing out right now. We just are too blind to see it, just like they were in Jesus' day. So as we go through the seventh seal, keep in mind everything prior to it is man-made. Everything after that is the wrath of God completely unleashed on this earth. And then we see the second coming of Jesus Christ. It's important as Christians we see ourselves in that role. Whether you believe you're walking in the end times or not, you should be professing Jesus Christ anyway. What you're going to find is if you're professing Jesus Christ eventually, you don't have to look for a war. The war is definitely going to find you. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Put it below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. If you feel called to support our channel through Patreon, that link is below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests, so never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.